Hi, this is Alexcursus, a show where I take a look at some Gunpla and see how authentic they are. This time, we are looking at the MD-0031UL Dilanza Sol. Dilanza Sol is a variant of Dilanza, specifically the military version. Not that Dilanza is not a weapon of war, but there are quite a few requirements that the serious armed forces wanted out of it. Those guys include the Space Assembly League, Cavidra Dominicus, and Jeturk's executive security details. So more like a serious version of Dilanza instead of military version. As you can see, it's pretty much Dilanza with different loadout. But I think the change in color also have some other things that I would like to talk about. I'll be rating this kit with Saga, style, action, gimmick, and absence. Style. Style is how much does the Gunpla resemble its counterpart in the anime, manga, games, or other media. For Dilanza Sol, like everything else in Witch from Mercury, because the line art and the computer files are developed quite closely together, it is pretty accurate, aside from being slightly blanky because of the joints you need in the Gunpla, but otherwise very accurate. I would also want to mention how the black instead of the teal really makes the Dilanza Sol seems evil, for the lack of a better term. Let's say scary actually. Looks more scary, more serious. The teal of the Dilanza is kind of weird. Well, like I do like the teal for being a mix between olive drab and navy blue. Kind of makes sense for, mobile suits in space. But black is definitely one, space, two, serious weapon wielding dudes, and three, being more menacing. The two large shields definitely makes Dilanza Sol looks more menacing. Taking a closer look, it is pretty much Dilanza in black with a different headgear, a transceiver instead of an antenna, because, in real war, you don't fight people or capture people by cutting off the antenna. You really are trying to scan or catch your enemy before they do. So yeah, having a extra transceiver in place of the antenna makes sense. Same chest, same skirt, same legs. There is also a different backpack or different options for the backpack. And obviously the shield, we'll talk about those in gimmicks. And the back skirts not just have one thruster in the middle, also have these extra thrusters that is like the main thruster. So by the looks of it, Dilanza Sol has a lot more thrust. Now this skirt is just hollow like the Dilanza, and because it's bigger, it's more of a, what should we say, more of a problem if it is not, all the way black. And this purple sort of area, it is supposed to be the counter thrusters on the backside of the skirt, just like these in the middle. So color separation is not as bad, or rather that is very clever color separation. To be honest, without all the lights hitting on it, you would probably think, that is quite a detail for the inside of the back skirt, but not really. Still, that's some hollow. Part separation on the leg is just like the lens as well, just front back clamp all the way down, except because it is now in black, you don't really see it until you put a light right on the edge or the gap where the assembly comes together. Otherwise, it is very hard to notice. Now, of course, the disadvantage of being black over is you can hardly see the details on the scope work. Luckily, I think there is enough gray parts on the Dilanza Sol that you can still see quite a few of them. So yeah, style-wise, I will give the Dilanza Sol A, much like the Dilanza. Well, it's more like an A plus because the black on the armor really cover up my biggest gripe with the Dilanza, which is the gaps in the legs. And it's definitely looking more menacing compared to the Dilanza. However, those are still gaps. The back skirts are still having hollows, and I want to complain how the backpack or the new backpack option blocks the apogee motors on the side of the backpack. That is really an oversight from their part when they first designed this backpack. Or when they designed this backpack, they didn't come up with, a option or at least another thing to conceal or to go over this apogee motors to make it go on the side so it's more natural looking. Other than those, yeah, just very, very, very little. Oh, of course. And of course, my biggest problem with the Dilanza is how they decided to use the purple as the main visor color instead of the green. So it is very awkward to paint a strip of green on the side. So yeah, just a collection of little problems. Not a lot, no biggie overall. Like I painted that strip of green. I think that's fine. I did plan to buy a purple metallic to paint the visor, but then either way, yeah, basically I don't want to, correct for their mistake. So yeah, just, a collection of little things that could be improved with how much they already thrown into the kit. I do suspect that they are, well, I wouldn't say they are losing money, but they definitely does not have such a great margin as they could have because these things on the backpack, they're supposed to be missiles. They have color correction stickers. I go against that. One, kind of weird that the thruster and missiles have the same color, but also two, they would look very obvious that they are color correction stickers, like sticking out like a sore thumb, which is what I would mark down. But then again, I don't mind too terribly much with, sculpture and being given the option of color correction stickers. Just, I don't prefer them. So yeah, great. Like there are some great engineering in this thing, but they are not applied evenly across. So yeah, style is A. Action are basically the same as the Dilanza. Arm on a ball joint with a shoulder socket to pull out, and then the head is on a ball joint. I didn't push it in as far this time, so you can see it got a little bit more movement. But yeah, you still can't see the Dilanza's or the Dilanza Sol's neck. You just know it's kind of there. It's two ball joints, but yeah, can't really showcase it with how little movements there are because of all the details around the neck and how big the head is. Shoulder armor can live up on its own as usual, and then elbow, and then going all the way, covered just like the Dilanza. Torso tilt, Let's set up, yeah, about 30° forward. Or actually more than that if we look at the chest. Yeah, basically 45°. Uh, no backwards, but you can sort of play around with it to get some lean back prospectively. Skirts, I do it a little more so that you can separate them or have separate movements. But yeah, still a menace to the movement of the leg because the thigh is really thick. But again, the lack of side skirts means you can, or Dilanza Sol can kick really high. So yeah, very athletic. Up. And then knee. Once again, bit more than 90, 120-ish. Respectable. Probably not good enough for a knee strike, but definitely enough to give the impression of jumping, I guess. And again, foot on a ball joint with rocker. So yeah, probably adjust this a little bit. Yeah, single foot stand, no trouble. And then super wide stands on 2 feet, no trouble as well. In addition, the shields, once again, kind of run into itself if you just rotate it. Or rather, the shield kind of run into the shoulder arm itself if you just rotate it. But you can flip it up to go over and back down, giving you front protection or all the way to the back so that the arm can go all the way to the side. Now, let's see. Not quite really protecting the whole thing, but definitely protecting the arms. Anyways, so yeah, Dilanza Sol's action, again, excellent as a modern kit. Nothing really changed from Dilanza. Back skirt can still live just like Dilanza. Basically for more dramatics, but also kicking his own ass. Kicking his own ass once again. The thighs are too thick and the back skirt basically stop you from going further than horizontal. But this is enough for Dilanza Sol to kneel. So yeah, good kneeling pose, good wide breath stands, and good one leg stands. I'm not sure if I gave a S to Dilanza. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but I am giving a S for Dilanza Sol because of the shields, because of how expressive they are. Going forward, going back, not quite all the way up, but fairly. So yeah, all points for Dilanza Sol for action. Next is Gimmick. Gimmick is usually the onboard weapons and optional weapons for the mobile suits, and it also includes different functionalities for the mobile suits. In case of Dilanza Sol, what I forgot to mention with Dilanza is these falcon guns on the side of the cockpit. I wasn't sure about those when I look at Dilanza's manual. They didn't mention it. They didn't mention it in Dilanza Sol's manual as well. They actually mentioned this in Gu's Dilanza, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, they still exist. So self-defense weapon in the front. And then at the back, missiles, like we have talked about. They're supposed to be cluster missiles. That's why they're so huge, and that's why they are on the back instead of facing the front, because they, supposed to go around and then explode in unexpected angles. So being at the back, it's fine. You don't get a separate missile piece, nor can you remove this cap for a missile effect. But again, those are relatively rare for HG anyways. Still, just something to take note of. Now the shield, we look at it a little bit in action. It is pretty much covering Dilanza Sol on the side fairly well. Dilanza is such a chunky boy, you will need a very big shield to cover most of it, but with this wide breadth shield here, it covers it quite well on the side, and in the front projection, if placed correctly. While not the best scope work, and how it sort of have a hollow to the back, I guess this is where the scope dogs of the cast really shines, but I kinda like how this shield is economical at having this ridge in the middle that is also in the front. I kinda like that. I know it is sort of a manufacturing chipped out, but I find it quite effective here. The same attachment point as regular Dilanza, same parts. So yeah, you can still store the beam torch and the beam rifle magazine here if you want to. Speaking of which, the beam torch, I keep saying it is beam saber in the original Dilanza video. You will note it is a different color here because Dilanza, to be used in the Astasia School of Technology, they have limited output so that the jewels wouldn't damage the school grounds as bad. Dilanza, being a military model used in the real world, will have the proper power output, so it gets red beam torch blade. Still sounds weird that the torch of a blade, but I guess it makes sense as sort of a energy torch. And then the beam rifle, basically the same as the Dilanza with the same magazine, but the Dilanza Sol get a barrel attachment. Like real firearms, this extra long barrel is supposed to increase the range and accuracy of the beam rifle that the Dilanza Sol uses. You also notice this additional beam blade. This additional beam blade is actually for the bayonets on the beam rifle. Yeah, this is how serious the Dilanza Sol is. Not only does it have a beam torch as a melee weapon, it also have a bayonet on its beam rifle. I really like this doubling up of beam blade for starters, and I also like how the extended barrel also provide you with the beam bayonet, so that it is not just a extra long thing that is less wieldy, but is actually a additional weapon that can be used as an advantage. So yeah, gimmick wise, I really like the bayonet on the beam rifle. I like the beam torch for just being a massive thing on its own for no reason. It's just good to have variety in beam blades and beam saber designs. Again, it's beam torch, but it's functionally a beam saber. And yes, the missiles are just there with nothing else, but that's excusable. And the shields being so massive is just lovely. So yeah, gimmick wise, Dilanza Sol gets an S. Last and probably least for Dilanza Sol here is absence. Dilanza Sol is pretty much the same as Dilanza, just that you don't get the louder custom bit. But as a standard military model, that's fine. No personal options is fine. Lack of the double bit axe is also fine for me. That it is sort of a unique weapon, not super unique, but it is unique enough. And yeah, you don't really need a big hit blade, basically pull arm length weapons if you have all these extra beam weapons. Because Dilanza Sol is not shown to have other ranged weapons in the show or even in the drawings, sketches, so it's also fine that this kit does not have more ranged weapons. Like, sure, I would like to see more weapon options, but I think Bandai can do that with the option parts line now. Especially they are now quite determined, I think, to create a line that is just options, so that the options are not bound to any specific series. So, people can chillax how they mix and match. You can definitely use the demi-trainer weapons with these hands, but I would like to see a set of dedicated Jeturk weapons for Jeturk mobile suits or for other mobile suits raiding the Jeturk arsenal. I do want to mention the black here. It is an improved version of what Bandai used to use, if I understand it correctly. The older Bandai Black formula is so horrible. You would see a lot more basically the sprue marks over, even if I use a marker to cover them up. You'll see a lot more of those. I don't see it here, but I feel like they could have used Ecopla here. Again, Ecopla is hard to come. Ecopla might be more expensive as well, so I don't hold it against them. But I would like to see a Dilanza Sol with Ecopla, maybe slightly different coloring to differentiate, I don't know, some mercenary or some neo Jeturk. What I'm trying to say is I do like Dilanza in general, and I like Dilanza Sol as well. But currently, if I get more Dilanza Sol, it would probably be, just the same Dilanza Sol. Maybe I have one that will steal Lauda's axe, but again, not much of a variant still. Not the fault of the kits. It costs just as much as the regular Dilanza or slash Lauda's Dilanza. I'm happy with the price. As for absence. So to recap, Dilanza Sol gets an S in style because it is just a simple, menacing, mean-looking machine that is also chunky. The fault of the archaic leg part separation is very not noticeable here, but there are still some of bad taste, I guess, lingering. So I'm refraining to give it an S for style, keep it just an A. Action, excellent action, basically for most of the new HGs. Really not the fault of Dilanza Sol to not be able to kick his own ass, because the back skirt is so massive and kind of glorious. It being able to lift up is more than enough compared to, how things used to be. But I'm going to keep it an A because his own chunkiness is limiting some of his own actions. And for Gimmick, I absolutely love the beam torch. The beam bayonet on the beam rifle with the extended barrel, that is just chef kiss. The onboard weapons are kind of boring, but they are not supposed to be anything special. The shields now are actually large enough to protect Dilanza quite well, and they are sculpted. So as for Gimmick, super easy, barely inconvenient. Last absence, not much is missing from the Dilanza Sol. Maybe we can use some unit decals, but we don't see a lot of unit markings in the show either way. And I think if more weapons are to be given to the Dilanza Sol or more options like the backpack, not just missiles, it could be arranged with option parts line. I don't think the standard kits really need them. So the verdict for the Dilanza Sol is A for style, A for action, S for gimmick, and S for absence. Like I said in the original Dilanza, Alexcursus, if you ask me to recommend a Jeturk mobile suit, or at least a version of Dilanza, I would recommend the Dilanza Sol. Not only does it have equipment that is more in line with traditional mobile suits, but they're also excellent looking, or looks very functional and menacing. The whole thing looks menacing. I really like the big shields on the side. Like these are real shields on shoulder. Not like the Dilanza which just have a suggestion of a shield on the shoulders. The black really conceal the archaic leg part separations. And yeah, the thruster color separation, like the counter thruster color separation, is rather nice on the inside of the back skirts. The place where most HG would just neglect altogether. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this kit. And I'm not quite doing a comparison videos because I do want to bring in Ghouls Dilanza, but that would be another video as well. Also, I think Ghouls Dilanza deserves its own video because, spoiler alert, it has a different model number. Thanks for watching, see you next time.